Okay, being that it's just after 6 o'clock, 6:09, I'm going to start the Finance Committee meeting on March 18th, please. First, I'd like an approval of our minutes from February 12th.
Motion.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, and we're going to move on to our new business discussions and presentations. First off, the 2022-23 financial audit. Mr. Bo Travis and Mr. Hank Miller from the Gorman and Associates are going to come and dazzle us with their audit stuff.
Yeah, so they did send a little PowerPoint thing that you should all have. So I've known these guys for a while. They've been hard on me every single year. So we thought they should come out here and talk to the board, and they can review last year's audit. Guys, you're up.
And which of you is which?
I'm Bo Travis, I'm the managing partner. So, just so you, a little context here, Hank Miller is our audit partner, he's in charge of the audit itself. My kind of job is to help facilitate the writing of the financial statements. So that's really my job of the audit, and then oversee everything, but Hank is in charge of the audit team and for the audit, so he's going to give his presentation on the audit report.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Do you want me to go?
No, I got it.
Oh, boy.
Not lucky
He's got his
there.
bouncer walk on.
Send
Yeah,
out
You have no idea.
go talk at the other end.
Excuse me.
Shall
Would
we?
you all like to move down again?
Thanks, Keith. Okay, as you were.
That was refreshing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So we just prepared a short little PowerPoint, which you guys have the physical copies in front of you. Basically, we'll just go through the slides, and this basically just gives an overview of what's in our audit report, which you should also have physical copies for. And we also provide an electronic PDF to Drew that's available. So on the first slide, we have the report on the audit of the financial statements. Basically, our responsibility in an audit is to come in, obtain audit evidence surrounding the financial statements, to the point where we feel comfortable giving an opinion stating that those financial statements are free from material misstatement. And the whole reason And basically our goal, our responsibility is to come in as an outside independent third party, is to be able to give an opinion, present the financial statements so that the board and taxpayers and creditors, they can rely on that information. We're given our opinion there. So in our audit report, we give our opinion and we state basically the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects, the financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information for the school district as of June 30, 2023. We also outline our responsibilities for the audit, which is, as I explained a little bit, to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinions. And then there's also some supplementary information in the financial statements that are presented. Basically, that includes combining an individual and non-major fund financial statements, and because they're in the audit report, we have to give our opinion on them as well. And basically, that information isn't required to be included in a report, but we include it because we think it provides additional context for the school districts. Next, we just have some financial highlights. So this is basically a summary of the budget versus actual financial statement for the general fund. So the first column, you have your final budget. This is after all budget transfers have been made. The middle column is your actual results, and then the last column there just shows the variance between your actual and your budget. So you can see you came in for total revenues over budget of $1.7 million. Total expenditures was in line or dead even. The reason for that is that there was some budgetary reserve in the original budget, and some of that reserve was moved to your expenditures, your budget expenditures during, at the end of the year via budget transfers, in order for the school not to overexpend their budget. So just to explain that row there. So you had a budgeted deficit of $3 million, which you'll see at the bottom of the final budget column there, net change in fund balance. You had a budgeted deficit of $3 million. You finished the year with a budgeted deficit, or I'm sorry, with an actual deficit of $5.396 million. Most of that variance came about due to transfers out of the general fund. So you began the year of 22-23, fiscal year 22-23 with the $18.9 million fund balance. You ended the year with a $13.5 million fund balance. Then on the next page, just continuing some of the financial highlights, this is a breakdown of the school's fund balance as of June 30, 2023, in the different categories. So you have non-spendable, that would just be like prepaid expenditures, inventory type items. There was $16,000 that was non-spendable. You have $220,000 that's restricted for various scholarships. And then you have the board commitments. You have $3.5 million for increase in PSERS, and then $2 million for future debt service payments. And there's assigned, next you would have assigned fund balance, which is usually not necessarily board approved. It's not done at the board level, but management level. You have $1.9 million that is being used to balance the 23-24 budget. And then unassigned, you finish the year with unassigned fund balance of $5.3 million. So total fund balance of $13.5 million. The next page, we just provide trend analysis for the food service funds. So here we have 5 years worth of the food service operations. So you can see our operating revenues, operating expenses, year over year. So our goal here, we show the bottom line change in net position, and then we add back certain items in the bottom section there. Those items we're adding back are related to your pension and OPEB obligations. We add those back here because they can have large variances year to year, and they're more accounting type entries. So we're trying to get back to an actual, what you might, like a cash result year over year. So I know obviously we had COVID and affected 2020, 21, 22, has affected a few of these years, but you can see the last 2 years, food service, the food service funds has finished the year with a surplus of $700,000 and then $500,000 this past year.
And just for context, when you're looking at that, operating revenues are really what you're charging for student lunches. And then your non-operating revenues, you can see the variance in those lines, and that's your National School Lunch Program, all your federal state subsidies. And you can see there's big variances when they went to the COVID policies where everybody was free and reduced lunches. That's why like in 2022, you had $2 million worth of non-operating revenues. That's all your food service and National School Lunch Program in there. And that's where you can see, and then you started charging again the food service program back in 2023. It's kind of like that's why we're showing that trend analysis. If you're kind of getting back to the 2019 years and you're moving forward. But I know like in the deficit, the food service fund was, at the end of 2021, I believe it was like 800,000 in the red. And now you guys are, I think, only 75,000 as of June 30, 2023. So it's coming back, and it looks like the food service fund's doing well.
For their net assets you're talking about, or?
Yeah, for net position, yeah.
Right.
Thank you. I was making a note as to what is that.
And then on the next page, just to highlight the capital reserve fund and capital projects funds, just the activity that you had going on there. So capital reserve funds, you guys transferred money in, which if we remember back from the general funds deficit, part of that was due to, the district transferring money out. So you can see here you have $5 million being transferred into the capital reserve funds. And ended the year with a $9.7 million fund balance for capital reserve. And for capital projects fund, not a whole lot of activity going on there. And ended the year with $440,000 worth of fund balance.
And that's things like our turf field and things that we've been putting away for.
In the capital reserve fund?
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, the projects fund.
So the capital projects fund was money left over from, I'm assuming the last.
The last
sort of
bond issue.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
So the
okay.
remaining.
we needed to-
spend down,
to
yes.
spend that out. So we did this summer, Megan can keep me honest here, but we spent that out on I think it was the softball field. Because that money needs to be,
Dispersed.
yes,
Gotcha.
legally by,
You're supposed to spend it within 5 years
Yeah.
of receiving funds from a bond proceed.
yeah.
Okay.
So at some point, I'll probably come to you and say, we need to do a plan con part J, which is the final accounting for that.
Finally.
Yeah, so getting all this money spent out, now we can start to look at that and sort of
Okay.
finalize that project.
Okay.
And then on the next page, we just go through, this is some more of our audit summary. So this is highlighting our report on internal control over financial reporting. So we did have a few findings this year. A deficiency in internal control exists when the design or operation of control does not allow management or employees in the normal course of performing their assigned functions to prevent or detect and correct misstatements on a timely basis. And then we just explain, what's a material weakness. And then we explain, we considered the deficiency described in the company's schedule of findings and question costs as item 2023-001 to be a material weakness. So here we had one finding that was a material weakness. The next paragraph, we explain what a significant deficiency is. And then we explain that we had two findings and they're numbered there. And just reference that they were significant deficiencies. So, and you will see those in the audit report in the back section, in the single audit section. Yep, you got it. And I'll talk about those at the end here. So next, in the audit summary, we have report on compliance and other matters. This is just as it relates to government auditing standards. So we did have one finding on compliance that was number 2023-004. And then we also give our opinion on each major federal program. So the school district is subject to a single audit, which is a federal compliance audit, where we come in and select certain federal programs to be tested, and then report any findings from that testing. So and then give an opinion on that. So in our opinion, Upper Perkiomen School District complied in all material respects with the types of compliance requirements referred to above that could have a direct and material effect on each of its major federal programs for the year ended June 30, 2023. And then the next page is just a summary of our findings for the financial statements and the federal awards. So you can see there that we'll say for the financial statements, internal control over financial reporting, there were material weaknesses identified. There were some significant deficiencies identified. And then under federal awards, there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies as they relate to federal awards. But there was one non-compliance finding. And then here you also see a breakdown. These programs that are listed here are the programs that were identified as major programs, meaning that these are the programs we tested for single audit. So that was your special ed IDA cluster, and then the COVID-19 Education Stabilization Fund grant. So that's your GEAR funds, ESSER fund, or ESSER, all of those COVID-19 grants. And we tested 48.7% of your total federal awards during the single audit compliance testing. So next, as far as it relates with the financial statement findings, our material weakness identified was related to accounts payable and general fund and food service funds. This was a repeat finding from the prior year. I will say that the issue related as far as just AP not being reconciled when we first arrived for the audit, but in working with Drew and Megan, they were able to get us, they were able to reconcile that account prior to the end of the audit. So we do have confidence in the numbers that were reported in here. We understand there was some turnover in personnel. But since this was a finding from the prior year and we noticed there was similar issues this year, you know, we have to include it in the report. And it's a material weakness just because accounts payable was such a large part of the balance sheet as it relates to the financial statements. So next we have a significant deficiency. This is also a repeat finding from the prior year. There's just some issues around, these specifically related to the pooled cash accounts with the general funds, I believe activity fund and the private purpose trust funds or scholarship funds. So there's pooled cash accounts between those three funds. And we've given the general recommendation that we think it would be best to split out those cash accounts into actual separate bank accounts. And that would make it much easier to reconcile those bank accounts individually.
The Skyward software system makes it very difficult for you guys to reconcile it internally, and it makes it a mess. And it takes a lot to get it cleaned up, and you know, that's what most of the problem is. And you think you got it good, and then things shift and it's off. So it was off a little bit, and we have to report it. But we were very confident, like I said, even with accounts payable, and the next one we're going to talk about accounts receivable. They weren't reconciled right when we got there. They couldn't prove it out, but you know, through the time of the audit and assistance through it, we were able to get it all reconciled, and we're very confident of the numbers. But it is an internal control issue, and that's what we're reporting on. We're giving you a clean opinion on the financial statements. We think they're good, they're unmodified, it's a good opinion. We're reporting on your internal controls that they need work a little bit. And the school's put up a good corrective action plan for all of those. And we are confident that Drew is going to get this under control and in shape, and it's going to be perfect next year.
I can tell you.
No pressure.
I mean, Megan and I already talked about the first one, so we have a plan in place for that one. The second one, we've already corrected that, so we're keeping it. What it was they were mixing in some activity fund and scholarship deposits in with the general fund and just getting put in the wrong account. So Megan has already worked with our folks to, you got to keep everything separate. So I think we'll be in much better shape.
And I worked with Christine on the accounts receivable.
And and with the food service one that I'm sure they're going to talk about next.
Yep.
Yeah, so the next one was also significant deficiency, just as it pertains to accounts receivable in the food service fund. So when we first started the audit, there was a wrong balance in that account. So just the fact that it was an account that needed to be reviewed and reconciled, which wasn't done by the time the audit started. And again, we recognize the fact that there was turnover in personnel, and you know, the timing of the audit can have an impact on those things. And eventually we got everything squared away, but something that should be done routinely throughout the year anyway. So we're just reporting on that. Just making sure that they're reconciling that account in a timely manner. And like Bo mentioned, you know, there's other like smaller issues that we reported on that I think you would see in the audit report, things we would call control deficiencies, or just as they relate to internal control. You know, we discussed all of those with management. But those three findings are ones that management has to provide a corrective action plan to us for, which they did which is also included in the back, very back of the report there. So you can see what management's plan is, or corrective actions are to fix those things. And then our requirement next year will be to follow up on those findings to make sure that corrective action is being taken, which is why you see some of those in there. There are repeat findings from the prior year. We follow up every year to see if they're being implemented, and if it doesn't appear they are, then, we report on that, so. And we'll elevate issues if we feel it's necessary, if things aren't being resolved. So.
Anybody have any questions? Sorry, I forgot I was chair.
Just riveted by the conversation.
I know.
I heard Drew say it's gonna be perfect next year.
Yeah, I know. I heard him say
Hopefully it's
that.
not recorded.
This, the food service fund, you said you have a plan, do you want to explain that a little bit? Or-
Yeah, so these were accounts that were not, there were things getting posted into those accounts that shouldn't have been, or at least they were not being reconciled and cleaned up by the end of the year. So a lot of these items are just, the best way to do it is monthly reconciliations for all these accounts.
Oh,
They'll keep their ears closed. You can't always do it every month, but if you do get back to it, the more you keep up on it, the easier it is at the end of the year. So, Megan and I have talked, we are gonna, I've already implemented getting reconciliations done every month.
If
been a little
if I
crazy.
remember correctly, part of the problem there too was timing of when invoices were being entered into the food service fund, which would create that receivable balance. And then if you have payments coming in and you're posting it against that receivable, but if you haven't posted the invoice, now you have a credit balance in there, which is what we saw. So, but yeah, just add a little specifics. I believe that was part of the issue too. But all that would get resolved if you're doing monthly reconciliations.
And to piggyback on top of that, off of Trina's, is part of this also related to the changes in the way they redistributed some of the accounts 2 or 3 years ago, remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I don't,
I think that happened just before you came in, where they were realigning where certain funds were being deposited into because of regulations that changed.
For the
As
student
far as,
activities?
yes.
Yes.
for the what?
For the student activities part.
Oh,
Because they,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
they were trying
Because we had an
to.
issue with that then.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it'll be just a little bit more supervision as far as who does the reconciling.
Right,
Sorry, it was me.
I'm working on doing all the reconciling.
Lucky you. Yeah, right.
Working.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, none of that's terrible. Thank you.
Okay.
All
Thank you
right.
for having us.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming.
Pleasure.
Yep. See
We'd
you
like
next
to
year.
take one, like you got the last. Okay, no, good.
Thank you, you too. All right. We're gonna move on. Can we put Jim over there?
Yeah,
No.
so we have a couple of items here for Jim to talk about. He might end up being a little vague in just getting through some of these topics and having to deal with some security issues. So, but he is looking to sort of discuss a letter of intent that would be committing the board to purchasing something in a future budget year. So that's why I always like to come and at least discuss it because we don't have a budget for next year. So we can't commit to a purchase for next year because the board hasn't approved the budget. But if we can get your approval on this, and we can sign a letter of intent, and we can commit to getting some things that are much needed.
Yes. So, difficult to explain because some of the things that we're dealing with here now, as Drew said, had opportunity to see some products in the last several months that we were planning for 24, 25. So the only caveat I'll change to what Drew said is we may find ourselves, as we talk deeper about this, to expedite some of these for some other reasons. But the two products we're talking about, one is a replacement for one of our products that we use in defenses of our computer systems and those kind of things. The Pennsylvania IUs Association has done very, very well. If you remember back several years ago when there were issues in many schools and many businesses. CrowdStrike, if you heard that name, CrowdStrike was the word, right? At that time, extremely expensive, difficult situation that Fathom could not get consolidated pricing from CrowdStrike. Pennsylvania IU's done a very, very good job of gaining consolidated pricing for, or consortium pricing is what they call it, for the IUs all across Pennsylvania to offer this. And it's extremely discounted.
That's great.
So it allows us, we were coming to you to say, wow, this comes with, not that what we have is for, right? But this puts a whole layer of services on top of, should we have an issue, puts a whole layer of services on top of watching us at night, while we're sleeping, all those kind of things wrapped into this wrapper, plus the IU services for support versus us chasing and our tails. So more of a monitoring situation. So that's Sentinel one. The second one that came very recently, we use a backup system, which I'm not going to talk about. It's done us very, very well, especially in recent months. You know where I'm coming from. It's fine. The difference here, again, was price and the fact that CCIU, it's another IU, the Chester County IU, is getting ready, and they've done a wonderful job of getting pricing on this product, that consortium pricing, that again would put us in less than what we're paying for a current product that we manage. And that's why we had this planned up. We think we're coming to you, they're asking us for letters of intent. Some we would go, in one case, it would have been in the 2024 year, and in the other case, it would have been a year beyond.
Oh, wow.
So Sentinel, what do you think? Sentinel would have been 1 year out because the current product we're using, we were committed to. So that's where we need to talk about, I got the double up. So the letter of intent that I'm signing for does not commit us to putting it in place until 2025, July of 2025, but I think we should talk about that internally, further in some other conversations. So I'm committing us to, at a minimum, the 2024, or at the worst, I should say the 2024 budget, which would be budgeted items replacing other items that we already use.
Do we have
That
any
makes sense?
thoughts on the cost yet?
So we do.
Or do I not want to do that at all?
Yes, I don't have the contract pricing, but I think it's looking at Sentinel would come in equal to, or it's looking a little bit less, maybe $7,000 to $8,000 a year less than what we're paying on that line.
Wow.
And then the backup system would be in that equal amount. So you can see where we were coming from. We were like, wow, we can advance our services and we can save money at the same time. We were balanced at the time, and we know that the products that we have in place, we're doing what they were supposed to do. But this raises that level and puts people on top of it, so that we can't be up 24/7, which I think Keith knows.
When you say it puts people on top of it, does that mean that you have some live monitoring somewhere off-site?
Yeah, we do, and we have a CCIU team that would help us with stores and those kind of things, whereas we either do that ourselves or we pay JLR Consulting if we need a restore brought back to us. That's all part of that. The beauty of the CCIU plan is they're not in the business, just like we are not, they're not in the business to make profit, right? So they were able to go and negotiate the licensing part of this, but then also put their staffs on top of this. And on the Sentinel side, it will actually be Sentinel people. That help, Pete?
Yeah, so you'll have experienced help if an issue arises to assist you in remediation of any issues.
Right.
An early warning system, basically.
And yes, more of early warnings, right? Both products, they do higher level of heuristics on what they see, and that's what we're always looking for. Right? We're constantly, you helped us put beyond trusting to do blocking, right? That says you're not on the list, you can't run, right? At the workstation level, anywhere. This stuff's looking at your data more often and the probability of action given the methodology that's in place. No, there's no perfect pill, I tell you guys that all the time.
No.
It's not if, it's when, right? But this is the next layer. When you talk about things like intrusion detection and some of these other types of items, you can't be up 24/7.
So this would have like prevented
No,
No.
Not necessarily, we don't know that at this point, and these things were in play. There's a whole big
So
story.
this was something you were gonna ask for prior?
Yeah, Drew kind of knows that I've had these, we've been being asked for these letters of intent, and I was balancing timing on this.
So the best part of it is that they're better products and they're relatively the same, possibly cheaper.
Yep.
Is it possible to move up the Sentinel one?
To quicker,
Mhm.
it is, absolutely. it is.
Okay.
And that's,
And that
I
is
want to
our
at least get to where I can
intent.
commit, and then we can execute these at any time that we want,
Okay.
but.
We don't have to
not
wait.
Later, and then keep in mind, these don't really fully bind us. So that's why I was coming to you, they're still like, let us see the contract, let us see exactly what you do, we can, we,
This
you know.
is, so not really
so.
commit, it's just intention.
It's more of a letter of intent to put us in their play, but we're gonna probably come back to you fairly quickly with contracts and say,
Okay,
Could
and then
we-
what
could
happens
we-
if we get the contract and we just say you're not interested, what happens?
my understanding is we can walk,
Okay.
right? It would be over contract items or functionality that wasn't clear to us. or any of those
We would have to
things.
have a reason,
Yeah,
like,
right.
okay.
We don't like to sign a commitment to anything without the board knowing
Yep.
that, so.
Right.
Okay.
So we were kind of asking for this, at least at this level, and then, you know.
Start talking
Yeah, do we
formally.
need to take it, I don't know, Drew, you think it needs to go?
Do we need to send it to the full board, or just our okay is okay?
That's next week, and I think we'd still be in our window, and knowing that you support it, I'd start the rest of the conversations on drafting up
Okay.
some
Are
fast
we
track.
supporting it?
Yes.
Are we supporting it? Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's up to the committee here, if you want it to go to the full board. You know, from what Jim was saying, we're not actually,
Doing anything.
right.
Okay.
So there is a contract that'll come, which
I
then,
think if it came out of the finance committee that we would need to do that, at this juncture, I think that we would be fine. And my very educated guess
We're not
is,
committing to the contract,
No.
we're committing
Right.
to getting a
We're
proposal
just saying we
from
wanna
them,
go look
essentially.
at it.
Right, so they'd
Yeah.
be committing in that, following month.
And the dollar amount is like the same or less,
That's,
right?
all
Yeah.
signs look like that.
That's
I know
amazing.
that clearly.
That's amazing.
When I get a contract
Yeah,
out.
when the contract
So,
comes.
I'm
Drew,
all
if
for
I
that.
may, to be, transparent, my answer really should be to you.
well, we hope so.
Any
We
one of
hope
our
so.
tools
Sure.
could catch this if we're in the right place at the right time. There's so many places to be.
Mhm.
And what I explained to the board the other night, we're dealing with some things that haven't been seen for very long. right?
Yeah.
Like to Melanie's point, like we're doing nothing because you're changing like the dollar amounts of things.
That's even
Right.
better.
So,
If that
I
happens
feel
that
like that
way,
speaks to.
Right.
I'm all
just-
about that.
Yeah, and they were, and you'll see they were budgeted items. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, these fit into the area of the budget items that we had.
Okay.
So, but we
Alright.
wanted you to know about it, we were hoping it wasn't under some other conditions. And then know, for this group, that we're doing very well, with the things that we're dealing with inside the network right now.
Okay.
A lot of people are functional, and we're moving along,
So Sentinel One was through the PA.
I do, yep.
And Rubric was Chester
They worked-
County.
And they worked
Yeah.
really hard, and then Rubric's putting this up in such a way that their storage is involved in their data center. So I have some questions about that still. One of our guys was on with that today to clarify
Mhm.
how some of that works in comparison to what we are using today, and it's working.
Yep.
But-
Okay. Well, you have our love and support.
All right, good.
Okay. Now go home.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to the Montgomery County Tax Collection Committee Delegate Resolution.
Yeah,
I have no
so,
idea what that means, but go for it.
so anytime there's a change in staff, there's certain things you gotta clean up, and one of those things is the board needs to pass a resolution assigning who the delegates are for the tax collection committee. So that's the earned income tax is countywide, and back in 2010, I think Upper Perk actually had its in-house earned income tax collection.
Mhm.
That was all changed to, you had to go countywide, so they said this one organization, all the municipalities that levy an earned income tax, has a voting membership on that board, and that's, which is called the TCC, the Tax Collection Committee. So currently, right now, I think it's Dan, Megan, and Reed. So 2 out of 3 are gone. So I
Just poor Megan.
yeah. So, I'm getting emails about the TCC stuff, about, what we should do, or what the TCC should do, and I said, I'm not even a delegate. So, just want to let you know that I'm assuming, well, I guess I shouldn't assume. Would you like me to be the
Yes.
delegate and Megan to be the alternate?
Yep, you just need two?
You could do up to 3, but, I would think between the two of us, we can,
Okay.
maybe Jim wants to be the
Well, I
second
don't
alternate.
want to do it.
Jim says,
I was getting you off
I
the hook
heard
and
it.
said Megan for delegate.
No, I assume that probably should be my role, and
Yeah.
Megan can, I can always communicate, and if I can't make a meeting, we'll see if she can, but, yeah,
Okay.
so I assume you would like,
now I understand. Yeah, that was easy.
okay, so probably first meeting in April, I'll have that resolution on there,
Okay.
approving us as a delegate.
Okay.
Okay.
Oops.
I don't know if I
First I
actually
have to
talked to
learn how
Megan
to spell
before
result.
about this, maybe I should have mentioned something to her. Oops.
She didn't know she was all alone.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Aw. Well, thank you.
You had it well under control, I'll tell you that. Thank you.
That's it. All right, so next we're gonna talk about the softball safety net change order.
Yeah, so, I think the board was informed, already through the board, through Dr. Roach's board update. But there is a cost to move they're not poles, I'm not thinking of the right
Nets.
term.
Footers.
The footers.
Oh, yeah, footers, yeah.
So the footers are over possibly a little further than some of us would like. So, there would be a cost to move them sort of back over, and just over at the high school softball field, closer to the
Swamp
swamp. There you go.
Detention basin.
Retention basin, that's it, yeah.
detention.
So, yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, I presented it to the board, and
Yeah.
then a couple people took me up on a field trip.
Yep.
It's a matter of, I don't believe that if OCR saw it where it is now, it would be a major issue for them. I mean, they were putting the net up regardless. I think it's in the wrong spot. We have some acknowledgement on our part in terms of getting that finalized picture signed off, as well as from their part, from the company, and, the initial, as I shared, the initial change order, sight unseen was 7,200, and then after visiting and talking through that, it got put in half, so 36 something, where there's
Those items that we collect from students for whatever, whether it's athletics, whether it's fees, I don't know if we have technology fees, whatever.
If they break their computer.
Right. They break their computers, or field trips, that money that we bring in there. Grants through the IU, that's the IDEA, so the money that we receive for our special education enrollment. There's the expenditure side of there. Rentals at 45,000. Donations here. So we talked about the local donation, or local grant, when we went over the grant budget. It was $75,000. That, even if it's local money, you have to have an expenditure side of that. So if the money gets donated, we record it here under the revenue, and then we can spend it. So we have it budgeted on both sides. If no money comes in, we don't spend any. So it's just, needs to be put in the budget, because you can't overspend your budget. And then our other local revenues, so just those other miscellaneous items that we bring in, budgeted there at $104,000. So total local revenues are just over $50 million. Next slide is going to be our state revenues. So I bumped up the basic ed subsidy. The 23-24 base amount is a little over the 10.3 million. But that's the base amount, so what we're getting this year is just a little bit higher than that for this budget year. Again, we have no idea what the state's gonna do. We could get, who knows? Who knows? Who knows what we could get? We could get the 10.3, we could get 10.8, it all kind of depends on what's done at the state level. So, pretty confident just leaving that at 10.3, because I think the board was pretty conservative in that 23-24 budget, not knowing. And again, I don't think the budget was even finalized until much later into the year, so it was smart to be conservative there, but I think we can sort of bump that line up for next year. Special ed subsidy, not much of an increase there. Transportation subsidy, I'm just trying to keep that kind of in line with our actuals for 22-23.
I saw that in the audit, that we didn't get as much as we thought we were gonna get. For the transportation subsidy.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, you can see there, 1.59 was, well, that's for this budget year.
Mhm.
22, 23, yeah, it was 1.6 million was budgeted, and 1.379 came in.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so that's why I did drop it down to 1.395, just not knowing exactly what that number's gonna end up being. When buses get older, that sometimes can affect your subsidy.
Yeah, I think this is our third year. I'm gonna say this is our third
Sounds
year
about
with this
right.
bus company.
Yeah.
Third out, yeah, third, is that right?
Mhm.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So rental subsidy, that's the subsidy we get for our debt service payments, for those that are in the plan com process.
I was just gonna
We
say.
are getting reimbursements for those. Any new bond issues would not get any additional reimbursements unless the state changes that plan.
And that's how we get 883,000 out of the 5.4 million we spend in debt service.
Yeah, and that includes the tech school bond issue too.
Oh,
So we do
that's
get, it's $140,000, I believe.
Yeah, that's just solid in here.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind, I will look. It's about right.
All right, so the health services subsidy, we just get, that $56,000 or $59,000, whatever it might end up being, for those medical supplies that we pay for. We can reimburse, or ask for reimbursement from the state for a portion of that. You're gaining money in there, I'm just leaving it exactly what it was for 23, 24.
Is that lottery money?
Yeah. Well, so it's the lottery money that the state has, and then it flows and comes off the tax bill for all of our taxpayers.
The
all of our
homestead,
residents. The homestead, farmstead exclusion.
Mhm.
So it comes off of their tax bill, and then they give us the money, and that has to show up as state revenue. Yeah.
Is that casinos or is that just lottery?
It's,
It's
yeah,
all-
it's
All of it?
well, it came about, and that was Act 1, so in 2006.
Six.
When they started that, and they had to build the pot up.
Right.
I don't remember the first year that we got it. I think it was it 2 years ago? There was a big bump.
Yep.
Gambling must have been successful during COVID. and that
Nobody
they-
had anything else to do.
Regular block grant, that's another grant that we talked about when we looked at the expenditures. That money has been consistent since the state started distributing that money. And then for all of the Social Security and retirement funds, so that money that we put out for Social Security and retirement, we are reimbursed 50% of that from the state. So our state revenues are $23.3 million. And then federal, there's Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. They do not change all that much, although there was a bump here in 23, 24 for Title I. And then we do have medical assistance. We commonly refer to it as access. So for those students that are Medicaid, Medicare, Medicaid,
Medical assistance?
medical assistance.
Okay.
So for those services that we provide for them while they're here in school, we can seek partial reimbursement for some of those services.
Okay.
So our total revenues are 74.2 million. And if you look at the next slide, so this is every budget that we talked about since November, all put kind of on one page here. Now, real quick, I want to explain the budgetary reserve because you all know that there was about 1.4 million, I think, in budgetary reserve for this year. But it's hard to, like you talk about apples to apples, it's hard to look apples to apples when you have that in there. So I took that budgetary reserve and I threw it up in charter schools because that's, from the discussion, sounded like it pretty much all came from the charter schools.
Yep.
So that way you can kind of compare our charter school expenditure from year to year. And we will put money in budgetary reserve for this upcoming budget. We can just do it a little bit later in the process. So we talk about, all these line items. If there's, certainly any questions, we can. Just taking a look sort of towards the bottom of the page here, expenditures in this budget. And just keeping in mind, all those, that whole needs and wish list for staffing is all included in here. So that's kind of why we have a 10.1% increase in expenditures. We do have a 3.6% increase in our revenues. So we're currently looking at a $6.7 million difference between those two. I was talking to Dr. Roach, actually, when he and I talked this morning, it was 7.7 million. So I would like some more time to go through this, kind of got a little
Yeah, I
distracted.
found that million, I think, where it's.
Good job, good job.
So I would like to go through the salaries again, go through the benefits again, and just make sure everything is tight and cleaned up like I like. Kind of ran out of time last week.
I
But,
can't imagine why.
but this is where we are right now. So it doesn't look good, but we do know that a lot of stuff is put in here. We did talk about the medical and the prescription, sort of an option that we can utilize some of those funds that are out there at CPAS, which would bring that number down. But as it stands right now, if you went up to the index of 6.6%, know is not going to happen,
Good
that
guess.
would bring in an additional $4.5 million and then still leave a difference of about 2.2 million.
In terms of CPAS, we've already met our contractual obligation to the CBA for the premium holiday.
Oh,
We've
okay.
already met that last year.
Okay, good,
So
good.
we had talked at the time of agreeing to that we may do another one, you know, the following year if the money was there in CPAS, but there's no
Yeah.
commitment or no, we don't have to do that if we go in a different direction. To
Right.
utilize those funds in other ways, that's fine as well.
Yeah.
We've met the obligation in terms of
Good,
that piece for that
Good.
when we have that conversation.
that's good.
Yeah, so the option would be, you could do another premium holiday for a month or 2 months in
Or not.
24, 25,
Or not.
or not. And then I just wouldn't budget, I would budget for 10 months of payments to CPAS instead of 12, you know, that sort of thing. So that would be an option that we could certainly talk
It
about.
was 1 month, 2 payments, so
1 month.
1 month, we had 2 payments in a month.
Oh, okay.
It was 1 month worth
It's
of,
like $500,000.
something like that, right?
Yeah.
So again, this is the worst case, most conservative budget right now that we do have some time to hopefully chip away.
Okay. Any questions?
I'm just overly cautious about the staffing piece that's in there, because now that it's out, if it doesn't go, people get upset when something that they never had doesn't come to fruition. We understand it, it's a part of the
Right.
process,
Mhm.
but that's how it goes. So I've always tried to hold that close to the vest, so it's not, you know, it's like, oh, I thought we were getting that, and then it's not, and it's no one's fault, it's a process. That's how it works.
Right.
So, you know, we can continue to work on that, and then you guys will have, well, you know, we'll meet next month and know kind of where those numbers are, if we think we can do better, and I think there's some discussions in Crankton we can do once we get it there, but it's good to see the full piece.
Yes.
Um,
I can tell you that with this being my 7th budget year, this is the clearest it's ever been. Just saying.
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Even with all those numbers on all the slides.
Mhm. I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
I like the numbers.
Well, the way it's organized and everything.
It's really nice, yeah. It's great.
It's good.
So if you have any criticisms that you just want to say privately, I welcome those as well.
Nope. Nope. you're
Any way to
good.
improve it, you know, for you guys, it's a lot of work for everybody here.
The only thing I would say is, when I was looking at these pages, I would have appreciated a total, just so I could see like each line item, the total for each line.
For a total for each, okay.
Like the
all right.
1,200, the
For each
1,100.
Yeah.
Yeah, for each
Yeah.
function, thank you.
That's actually a good idea, thank you.
But it sort of ties together on the back end. And I hate to draw attention to this, but if anybody's looking at the percent of increase, you see one is 38.8, but down below, there's another one that's decreased by 33.
Yep.
So that's just realignment of where we're putting some of the numbers.
Oh, we forgot to tell you, Andrea, we're firing you. No, I'm kidding. That was the minus side, sorry.
Fired and then rehired and
Yep,
rehired.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and the grant line it's a little misleading because a lot more was used for salaries in 23, 24.
Right.
So I subtract those out because they're in the salary line. So it looks like it's a lot lower, when in fact, they're pretty equal when you kind of look at total expenditures of the grants. It's just we're not using the grants on salaries as much in 24, 25 and moving forward.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Yikes.
And Andrew's going to keep writing for more grants, which.
Yep, Andrea, love grants.
So are we comfortable moving this into the board update for this Friday?
Yeah.
Looks like just like we've been doing the last couple, so the full board will have access
Yep.
to the full presentation. I think, Drew, I think this document may be helpful to add as a separate blurb.
Okay.
Just again, I think it's helpful, that way when people, when board members get to the workshop and Melanie's given a report, they may have already had a chance to preview it at least, or ask questions, or that type of thing, because it is a lot of information.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
We'll be back to some update on Friday, whether it'll probably have to be emailed out, or pushed out, or Googled or something, but it'll get.
Carrier
We're working on
pigeon,
it.
yeah,
We're working
exactly. However, okay, all right. So old business, the per capita taxes. So did you ever hear from the gentleman that whether they got their refund?
So I did not. I
Because he wouldn't want to follow that up for us, would he? Yes.
No, it was a snow day, because I was working from home when I did talk to him on the phone and said, can you have your email? So I sent him the form that he needed to fill out, and I asked that he send it back to me, but maybe he just sent it right to Berkheimer, so I haven't heard, and it's been probably 2.5 months
It's
now.
been a while.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
I
so we'll
can-
just
Do you
leave it
follow
on
up
there.
with him?
I did try,
Yeah, I don't know how to get hold of, well, I don't have an email. right
yeah,
now.
I did try once, but I can try again.
Okay,
Yeah, it would just be nice to have the
just,
end result of it. Did you get it back? Was it a really big problem? I mean, that could help in our decision making at some point.
Yeah, I'll follow up
Okay,
again.
all right, so we'll just leave it on there for now. I don't think we have any new old business to put on there, right? Okay.
No, so I did, under information, I want to put this in here, I did get a visit from our liability insurance broker, who explained this process of this dividend check that we received. So we did get $23,000. So there's a group,
you just put it in Alan's account?
Yeah. We're gonna make the new fence with that. Maybe that's what we pay for the new
Make
fence.
another fence.
Yeah.
yeah, so there apparently was a good year in insurance in 22-23.
Wow.
It was explained to me that 21-22 was not a good year because there was a tornado that went through over Dublin, so I remember hearing about that. Caused a lot of damage, no dividend check in 21-22, but no tornado in 22-23, so yeah, so just being a part of this group, it's multiple districts all in our sort of area, Montgomery, Chester, County. So yeah, he stopped by and handed me a $23,000 check. I said, great.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Where is it going in all seriousness?
In the back of the general fund. So if you look under the revenues, there's that sort of other miscellaneous revenues.
Oh, there you
Put it in
go.
there.
Okay.
That's not something we would divide up and give back to taxpayers? That's just ours?
Just ours, yeah, I mean,
It'd be like probably
it'd be
30 cents a
pennies,
piece.
so, yeah, but
Maybe.
I'm just curious.
That's great.
If we have that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that we try to bring in all this additional revenue, which, yeah, would support that line item, that miscellaneous revenue line item here.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
Or other local revenues, is what they call it.
Yep. Anyone else have any questions? Anybody out there? Okay. All right. Do we have any public comments? No. Okay. Can we call for a motion to adjourn? Motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Aye, aye. Thank you. Oh, it's 7:30, that's not bad. That's pretty good.
Yeah. You'll get done. You can get home if you want.
Oh, yeah, you're right, I guess. we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, you want to do that?
Yeah.
You guys can hit it, you want us to, if you're locked in.
All right, thank you. Should we just go here? Sure. You still have.
Thank you.
A red light shining.
No, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's quieter.